Boston, the winningest sports city this century, each championship deriving from a plan. Join us as we discuss the next Boston Banner Blueprint with your hosts, Josh Finkel, Nick Walsh, and Nate Philbrook.
What is up, everybody? Boston Banner Blueprint back at it with another episode, but today we're doing things a little bit different. It's going to be an NBA trade deadline bonus banner podcast, but before we dive into all the trades and everything going on in the NBA, Nate, take it away and plug those socials.
Absolutely. Always want to start exactly and let everybody know exactly where to find us. And of course, that starts on Twitter/X at Boston Banner BP, Boston Banner Blueprint on both Facebook and Instagram, and then Boston Banner Blueprint on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple. Don't forget to like, subscribe, rate 5 stars, and share with your friends and family. So let's get to all the NBA madness.
Yeah, so before we get into all the really big moves that people jumped out of their seats at over the weekend and then into this week, we're going to touch specifically, sorry, I can't say that word sometimes. We're going to talk the two moves that the Celtics made. Obviously, they traded Jaden Springer, who we kind of knew he was probably going to get moved. We're going to talk the return here. I'll send it to Nick in a second. But they moved Jaden Springer, saved some money in that deal. I would have liked to maybe see Jaden Springer stay around a little bit more, but I understand the move. And then just barely we got another report of Torrey Craig. They picked him up, a journeyman, athletic type of kind of wing forward type of player. But Nick, take it away and talk about Jaden Springer and where he's at now.
Specifically the Celtics.
wish I had that soundboard right now.
So Springer got traded to Houston. It was a glorified salary dump. I would have liked to seen a player in return for him, but he made $4 million, which doesn't seem like all too big of a deal. And when you see guys signing for $60 million a year now in the NBA, which is absolutely ridiculous. But it had some huge implications for the Celtics. They were above that dreaded second apron where you're going to start seeing these tax bounties really start to kick in. But that trade of Springer to Houston for basically no salary coming back, it knocked them under that second apron and actually saved the team roughly $15 million in taxpayer penalties. And for a team that's looking to be sold in the coming weeks, any little bit to help your finances. Only thing I was worried about was there was rumblings that maybe a Drew Holiday trade was happening sometime today. Even more, I'm glad that did not happen because I would have really set off a red flag in my mind about any new ownership. So the fact that it was only Springer, I felt a little bit better about because, like you said, we all saw him, circled him as the guy to be traded because of that $4 million tag. And why would a team spend basically $15 million for the 10th guy on the bench? It really didn't make all too much sense in the world. So they compounded it by bringing in Torrey Craig, so another wing to replace Springer. So it was just a glorified salary dump in the end.
Yeah, and you kind of touched on, I would have liked to see a player in return as well. But, I mean, I don't hate draft picks, especially second-round draft picks. We see, obviously, trade deadline has passed now, but you see what Brad Stevens can do with draft picks, and now we have a lot of second-rounders. We have, I think, our next 5 first-round picks. So Brad Stevens has a lot to play with for when he needs to make another move. If it is getting rid of Drew and then bringing in someone else on a cheaper deal, because Drew, obviously, he's getting older. You're going to have to make a decision and get rid of money somewhere in the near future. So that's a path we don't have to go down yet. But, and then I just wanted to make a quick note on Derek White, unless, Nate, you have any things to talk about on the Celtics trade deadline. That was pretty quiet, but what we expected.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't think that this team needed to go out and make some of the blockbuster deals that we saw throughout the league, right? I mean, they've been They were the champions last year. They've been a high-ranking team this year, and we all expect them to do well in the playoffs. And so going out and making one of these big splashy moves wasn't necessarily on the docket, but going out and again, making your team a little bit more money friendly, at least during this time. And Brad Stevens has always been one to think, if not 2 steps ahead. And so that's a guy that obviously leading the front office is beneficial. So didn't necessarily need to make the big move, but moves nonetheless. And you just hope that the roster that you have is one that remains healthy as you come down the stretch.
Yeah, so quickly just touching on Derek White, I have all the love in the world for Derek White. That man makes the Celtics go. Quickly going through some quick numbers, Justin Turpin tweeted this out. He tweeted yesterday, the Celtics, they've won 4 straight for the first time since they won 7 straight between November 13th and the 29th. Derek White, over that 7-game stretch, he averaged 15.7 points a game on 45.5% shooting and 40.3% from beyond the arc. And now Derek White over this 4-game stretch is averaging 18.8 points a game, 52.1% from the field, and 48.6% from 3. And another quick stat, he's made 20 of his last 43s. So, I mean, I just quickly wanted to touch on Derek White. Probably doesn't go with the flow of the show, but I really want to talk about Derek White. So, Nate, give me some Derek White thoughts.
Yeah, so, watching Derek White play is a lot of fun in the sense of he's Mr. Fundamental out there. He's not the guy that's going to be flashy or on your SportsCenter top 10 plays, but he's a guy that, to your point, makes the wheels go. And he's a guy that he doesn't need the spotlight like a Tatum or like a Brown or a Porzingis, but he's a guy that is a glue guy that, particularly in the NBA, is vitally important as down into the playoffs. It becomes much more of a team sport, whereas night in and night out, you can have one of your superstars carry you for the most part, but it really does take a team to win the championship. And so that's when a guy like Derek White really shines.
Yeah, I mean, he does everything, blocks shots as a guard, makes deep threes, fills up his pockets with threes. I mean, he does it all. We saw it in the Cavs game a couple nights ago. He had fractions of space, and he's just pulling up over guys, draining shots. He had 14 big points in that fourth quarter, really solidified that win for them. And then obviously they're not playing too well tonight as they're playing the Mavs. But, Nick, do you have any Derek White thoughts, or do you want to move on to the bigger moves that were made around the league?
I love Derek White as a player, as a person. He's one of my favorite guys on the team, if not my favorite. I love the guys that are not so much the superstars. Like, I love Tatum and Brown and Porzingis to death, don't get me wrong. But when he was here, Marcus Smart was my favorite guy on the team, because even though he would make bonehead decisions at times, he was going to be the first one on the floor. He was going to be giving you 110% each and every night, even if it's a Tuesday night in Washington against the Wizards or whatever. And that's Derek White without the boneheaded plays randomly. So it always seems like if you need a big shot in the fourth quarter, not so much a buzzer beater, but you're down 7 with 4 minutes to go, you need a basket to get yourself back into it. Derek White's never missing. He's probably 100% shooting percentage in those spots. It always seems like when a big shot is needed towards the end of the game, he's always making it. So it's hard not to love a guy like that on your team. And for what we had to give up to get him a few years ago, I think that's one of Brad Stevens' most underrated moves throughout his whole time. Moving into presidents of basketball ops, it was Romeo Langford and what was it, the 28 first round pick. So
Josh Richardson as well.
Josh Richardson as well. Yeah. So that first round pick in 2028 at the time, it was basically a fourth grader sitting in his elementary English class, just got traded to the Spurs, basically. So
and that kid grew up to be Victor Wembanyama.
Fair. But
Parlez-vous.
Not really, but that pick is still 3 years away from meeting anything. So Derek White's, I know Tatum loves him. I know it was a running joke month or so ago where Tatum called Al Horford his all-time favorite teammate, and Derek White was sitting right next to him and basically gave him that face fink. So
Go check it out on YouTube
like
for
Nate
those
said,
that just missed that.
yeah.
Yeah, if you're
Right.
watching or if you're listening in your car on your way to work, you really miss out on a lot of things on the
Di-
YouTube. So if you get to the office,
Exactly.
tune into the YouTube. But yeah, back to you, Nick.
Yeah. So, but he's the ultimate glue guy, like you guys said. So it's hard not to love Derek White.
Nate,
Can I
finger.
so before we move on to some of the blockbusters that did happen in the NBA this trade deadline season, can I just file one grievance with you guys, because I'm the resident colorblind guy on our podcast here, and so watching the Celtics play the Cavs the other night with the black jerseys and the dark green jerseys was an absolute nightmare for me. So I'm just going to file that grievance against the NBA of those should be outlawed. I may be old school, but let's have the home whites. Let's have the alternate jerseys on the road. It's just so much easier for me to be able to follow the ball. And again, that makes me sound like the grumpy old man, but it was a tough watch when I couldn't tell whose team was who. That's all.
So Commissioner Silver, if you are watching, we know you have been popping your head in here and there. Please try and do your best for Nate. Obviously, he is struggling with that. So please just let us know in the comments. We know you're active, or in the DMs. Yeah, let's see if we can get that figured out. But switching gears here, really, I mean, it's hard to say that this is definitely the news of the week, but there's so many other big moves too that we're going to get into. But immediately, it's Luka Doncic to the Lakers. I mean, what the actual bleep? Sorry, can't swear because of Nick, but I mean, Nate or Nick, take it away and just your initial thoughts on this, because this was crazy.
Yeah, so I'll jump on this one first, and I'll say this. We always talk about my memory and history of specific events and specific games. And all of the four major American sports, I cannot think of a bigger trade, more shocking trade in our lifetime across the four of them. Like, I've never been so gobsmacked on a professional sports transaction like that one. I know I was probably like most just about asleep, if not asleep. And I have Shams tweets on notifications, and all of a sudden my phone buzzed, and I'm kind of looking at it, and it had the same reaction I think almost everyone did. Oh, Shams got hacked. Like, it's a trade that you don't see 25-year-old superstars get traded at this point in their career. You don't see 25-year superstars who are 5-team, first-team All-NBA. And yes, Anthony Davis is a superstar in his own right. He's going to the Hall of Fame one day. He's no slouch. But
he ain't Luka Doncic.
He's not Luka Doncic. That's right.
He's not 73 points in a game, Luka freaking Doncic.
You're absolutely 100%. So when I had to read it 2 or 3 times, and a trade is crazy when all of Twitter is thinking the same thing, that the most prominent NBA reporter got hacked. And then he had to follow up his next tweet saying, yes, this is real. And then people started to believe it. And it's like, holy cow, what just happened? Because, like, we'll get into the Jimmy Butler trade and all that later on. There was a lot of smoke around a lot of the other trades that happened. There was nothing around this one until Shams sent out that tweet. And
yeah, and I kind of
of that magnitude.
I should have put my finger up, but I really want to talk about Nico Harrison, and holy cow. The fact
the guy that screwed up the Steph Curry to Nike shoe deal,
yep.
The guy that had Luka Doncic, Kristaps Porzingis, and Jalen Brunson on his team just 2.5 years ago, now has none of them.
I don't blame him for losing KP. That did not work out. That experiment did not work. KP had a career resurrection in Washington, and then the Celtics made a move for him. And now that's where we stand with that. And then Brunson, he said on a podcast recently, he would have stayed, but he's like, oh, I'm going to back up Luka my whole career, make a little bit of money. Okay, like, You don't need to give a guy money for that. Allocate the resources somewhere else. And obviously, yeah, Brunson has blossomed, but that's not happening in Dallas. Would he be a good player? Yes, no doubt in my mind. Is he this Jalen Brunson? No, he's not, because there's Luka. There's other factors. Everything else about Nico Harrison, yes, he could have had Dalton Connect and a couple more picks, but Rob Pelinka, that's how you say it, right? Pelinka?
Yep.
Yes.
Rob Pelinka somehow talked him out of it because of the conditioning concerns. But Nico didn't think to himself and say, oh, they're concerned about the conditioning. Why would they trade for him? Like, I don't know how the Mavericks let this happen. I guess he somehow convinced like the guy above him to be like, we're gonna set a blueprint, may I add, to like not give the extension if you don't want it, Nick.
Yeah. When you talked about Luka's conditioning, we all know Shaq and Chuck on the TNT show sometimes can say some out of pocket things, but I love Shaq's comment the other night where they were talking about Luka's conditioning, and that was part of the reason why they traded him and all that. But in the words of Shaq, fat Luka is still better than 99% of the guards in the NBA. So if you're trading a 25-year-old superstar over his conditioning, what are we doing here? Like,
yeah, I mean, Markieff Morris said it. Markieff Morris said it at the press conference when they introduced them all. He said, if someone out of shape is getting 35, 15, and 10, then I don't know what shape is.
Right. And
round is a shape.
And
look at me.
That's true.
Oh, thanks, Nick.
But
pitching superstar.
Don't look at my stats. Tony,
but
the pitching superstar, because if we ever get a following, then I'm gonna get flamed so much for my career stats. It's gonna be brutal.
Yeah, but with Luka's conditioning and all that, you trade him for a guy that historically has been known to not be durable. Like, I know Anthony Davis has played fairly consistently the last 2 seasons, but he's still on the wrong side of 30 now, I believe. He's 31.
Yeah, but I don't love this argument in sports nowadays.
Well,
Nate? Nick, sorry, it's on my combo, sorry.
I was going to say,
is Nick lagging for anybody else? Is Nick lagging? Okay, I was going to say, because I don't know if it's me. Tony's going to have his handfuls here.
Yeah. Am I still lagging?
No,
a little bit. The picture a little bit, but the voice sounds better.
What I was going to say is the wrong side of 30, like the best ability is still availability. So,
you're right. But I mean,
which
both
to Davis's credit, he's been on the floor the last 2 years, but at some point, a leopard doesn't change its spots. That's the correct analogy, right? I have the right big cat.
I think it's a tiger doesn't change its stripes, but you're close.
Okay. People know what I mean. Wrong animal, right analogy. Wrong animal, right analogy.
Yeah, I mean,
a giraffe doesn't change its neck.
I guess it's hard. Okay. It's a hard move. It's a hard move to defend if like you're trying to defend the Mavericks, but
I'm not defending them at all.
I'm trying to make a statement here. Sorry. I'm not saying you are trying to defend them. I'm not really either, but it's their franchises. If they are concerned about the conditioning and about all that, and I mean, we saw it when they won the Western Conference Finals that Michael Finley took a beer out of Luka's hand. Like, they've had these conversations with him. They clearly didn't like where things were going. So why commit to $325 million, which would be the richest contract in NBA history? Why commit to that? I get it's Luka Doncic. I get all this, but if it's your franchise and that's how they want to do it, they want to spend those resources somewhere that they see fit, that fits whatever they're trying to build in Dallas, then let them do that. They're going to find out the hard way that they probably just did something very stupid, but let them find that out. That's for them to find out. Nick, I know you had your finger up, so you go now.
Yeah. So coming from it at the viewpoint as a Celtics fan, what scares the living hell out of me of this trade is Dallas just got new ownership last year. Mark Cuban sold off his majority stake. And you touched on with the $350 Supermax due for Luka this summer. if a new owner is not willing with these financial parameters and the tax penalties that are going to be really real in this CBA that's kicked in, as a Celtics fan, we know the new ownership's coming. Are we looking at the same boat 12 months from now that
No, sir.
Dallas? And I would hope to agree with you in the sense that our two superstars, Tatum and Brown, are absolutely committed to winning. They're absolutely in shape. They take the profession incredibly seriously by all accounts. So they got that going for them in terms of they're not Luka and his conditioning and those concerns. But those financial penalties are a real concern for any new ownership coming in. So I can't write that off and say there's nothing to see here for the Celtics in as fans, because the new owner could take the same approach and be like, why do I have two supermax guys on this team and paying $500 million in tax penalties and player payroll? Like, I can see that move coming a year from now, year and a half, whenever that new ownership really grabs onto the reins. I would hope not, and I hope they would be committed to winning just like Wick and this ownership group is. But it's no guarantee.
The only thing
Yeah,
that
I
I
have a
can think
thought,
of,
but yeah, Nate, I know your finger's been up, so you take it.
the only thing that I can think of to equate this trade to would be the Alex Rodriguez from Texas to New York trade, as it's a young superstar in his prime from a Texas-based team to one of, if not the most recognizable teams in the sport. And so that's where I feel as though, while this is a confusing move, particularly from a Maverick standpoint, I think the league wins in this case, as it's one of their superstars, being put on a franchise that is on every major TV around the world when they play. And so to put one of your superstars in LA, match him up with LeBron as LeBron sunsets his career, and not to mention that LeBron's 40 years old and the guy's still absolutely ripped. And so if you're looking to get Luka in shape, there's no better guy to match him up with than LeBron. So he's a guy that can potentially get Luka right. And so I think that the league, more than anybody else, is the winner of this trade.
Yeah, and that's the thing I was gonna.
Sorry,
You're good. That's the thing I was kind of gonna touch on. I saw a meme on Twitter. It was like the SpongeBob meme where it's like everyone's in line for the Krusty Krab, no one at the Chum Bucket. The Krusty Krab was the NBA trade deadline, and the Chum Bucket is the Super Bowl. The last couple of months, all we've heard about is the viewership of the NBA declining. Recently, they're doing an amazing job at getting these ratings right back up, and that's kind of why I think Luka might have got moved. I mean, it's kind of a conspiracy, but it's like, what if the NBA is like, hey, I mean, they did it. LeBron's there, Kareem went there, all these big names went to the Lakers for a reason. And Nate, you just said it. So the league does win and the ratings are back up. And Nick, yeah,
right.
Take it.
So I really don't believe in this specific conspiracy, this instance. I do think the league always tries to help the Lakers because they are the ratings darling of the NBA. I absolutely believe it. In this instance, though, I think Nico Harrison targeted Anthony Davis because why do not open up the bidding war to maximize Luka's return? Meaning, if Anthony Davis was on Portland, I think Luka's playing for the Trailblazers today or Monday, whenever Pelinka said Luka was going to be playing. I don't think it was so much a Lakers thing this time, more so that Nico Harrison, for some odd reason, had Anthony Davis as his prize return instead of opening this thing up to the league and doing basically the standard protocol of when your superstar wants out, you open up all the leagues saying, hey, we're willing to move this guy. Whoever give us the best offer, come get him. Because Luka really should have been traded for 6 first-round picks plus pick swaps or whatever the actual maximum amount you're able to trade for. So that's just a long-winded way of saying I don't think the league was helping the Lakers this time to drive Luka to LA, but I do believe the league does try to help the Lakers in ways overall. I just think this one was more that Nika was just being completely stupid, more so that a big NBA conspiracy cover up.
Yeah, that's fair. So moving away from Luca, and I do kind of want to circle back to this later in the episode. I kind of want us as hosts to give our like top 3 or 5 names of who we think is untouchable in the NBA, because clearly probably no one really is if
No
Luka
one?
just got traded. Yeah, but I want
Yeah,
to see
no
what
one.
if we could come up with some names. But let's go. There's a lot of other trades that happened that also made some seismic shifts
I
in
actually
the
got
NBA.
one.
All right, save that for
We're
later.
coming back. We're coming back.
Yeah, we're coming
Yeah.
back. But I want to go into the De'Aaron Fox trade first. I mean, the Kings a few years ago made a decision between Tyrese Halliburton and De'Aaron Fox. They chose De'Aaron Fox. Good decision for them. De'Aaron Fox is great. So is Halliburton. Halliburton's in the Indiana, thriving, whatever. A couple deadlines later, they have to make a decision, and they end up moving De'Aaron Fox to San Antonio to pair him up with Victor Wembanyama, and for him to learn from Chris Paul, one of the best point guards of all time. If I had to rank it, that's my favorite move of the deadline. I think that is a great deal. De'Aaron Fox is going to thrive there. He had a 24 points, 13 assists in his debut with them. That's a great deal. I don't know your guys' thoughts on it, but I love that deal. That's my favorite of the deadline without even talking about the rest of them.
And you touched on Fox learning from Chris Paul. When he comes back, though, he also gets to play for Popovich. So when Pop comes back from his medical leave because he had a stroke earlier in the season, you get to play for the best coach of our generation, basically. So on top of the Chris Paul and the Wemby aspect of it too, I think Fox learning from Popovich is going to be fantastic for him.
Yeah, and I don't want to spend too much time on some of these trades, but one trade I really do want to kind of go in depth on is the Kyle Kuzma for Chris Middleton pretty much swap there. Nate, I don't know if you have any thoughts, or Nick, one of you guys can take it away here. So
I'll keep it quick, Nick, and then I'll throw it to you. But, my only thought is, to me, I was surprised in the sense of that was Giannis's running mate, since he really came into the league. And that was a guy that it's been Giannis and Middleton. And that was obviously what brought them the championship. Go ahead, Fink.
I just want to add quickly to your thought. When they traded him, Giannis posted a picture of him and said, "This is my GOAT." Like, Giannis loved this guy, and they said Giannis approved the trade and was okay with it, but I don't know. But Nate, back to you.
Yeah, so and that's pretty much it. Is I was surprised to see a team like Milwaukee that's not necessarily a destination, right, for free agents, or and they certainly haven't been anywhere close to bad enough in order to pick from the premium crop of draftees. And so you kind of have to protect these superstars. When you have a guy like Giannis, you want to build around him. And so that's a guy that, I certainly was a little bit surprised to see get moved, but we'll see how the Kuzma with Damon and Giannis really works out. So going to you, Nick.
I was going to say, I think it's more of I know PT put this in our group chat too, and I'm going to steal his phrase. It was more so a lateral move. Like in a vacuum, yes, Chris Middleton is by far the superior player than Kyle Kuzma. No one will ever say otherwise. But Middleton's had health issues the last few years. So Kuzma really hasn't. Middleton's kind of starting to go on the downslide. So it's not so much like in name recognition and career resume. Yes, you would think, looking right at it, that the Bucks made a stupid move, and they might very well could be if Kuzma sucks and shoots bricks out there in Milwaukee, and Middleton comes back healthy and lights it up in Washington.
But with Marcus Smart now.
With Marcus Smart, who got traded this afternoon there. But I also don't think it's a move that really swings any sort of standings wise. It doesn't have any implications one way or another, or any playoff implications. I think Milwaukee was going to have the same ceiling with Middleton as they would with Kuzma, basically.
Yeah, and then keeping it still in the Eastern Conference and specifically with the Celtics, the Heat culture is officially dead, folks. Folks, Jimmy Butler, the saga is finally over. He got his wish. It wasn't Phoenix. He got sent to Golden State, immediately signed his 2-year, $121 million contract. And yeah, I mean, my initial thoughts is
After
like,
I was going to say earlier in the day where Shams reported that he would not sign an extension in Golden State whatsoever.
yeah.
So
But at the end of the day, the money
how
talked
fun-
for Jimmy, and that's really all he wanted.
exactly.
Yeah, and again, another move that's like it does really nothing. I'm glad it wasn't to Phoenix because why would you want to give up Kevin Durant? Because that's pretty much what it was going to be. It was get rid of Kevin Durant's services to bring in Jimmy. Like, why would you ever do that? Kevin Durant is one of the best scorers we have ever seen. He's a 7-footer, moves like a guard. Like, I don't need to get into Kevin Durant, but for Jimmy Butler, I was kind of scratching my head. I mean, the Warriors are trying to do whatever they can to try and milk one last championship out of Steph Curry, and
Did he just freeze
Uh-oh.
for you too?
Yeah. So I'm going to take from there just because I think Jimmy hasn't really been the same since like the COVID season when he came out and he was emo Jimmy Butler. But man, oh man, does it pay to be Jimmy Butler? My goodness, I saw that deal as soon as he was traded and was like, boy, I wish I was like a foot taller and had a little bit more skills than I possess. But hey, I did score 15 points in a JV game once, so don't at me, all right? I just saw the money that was then allocated towards Jimmy Butler on a team that already has Steph, Draymond, among others, and it's like, holy smokes, that the money is in the NBA is ridiculous.
$61 million a year for the next 2 years.
and it's the guy can't even shoot threes.
No,
Oh my Lord, I don't know what the Warriors are thinking. And I think we all saw the reports that Steve Kerr had his head down after the meeting in the locker room. I don't think it's because they traded guys away. I think it's because Jimmy Butler was coming to Golden State and they had to pay him a lot of money. I don't think Daddy Steve likes that.
If you were his head coach and have seen how he's acted lately, I mean,
why would
you'd
you
probably
want
hang your
that?
head too.
Especially
The
if
guy's
you're
acting like a
Steve Kerr.
child.
Like, I don't want to
He
bring
had-
like the Nick, you go.
I was going to say, I just said a few minutes ago that Popovich was the greatest coach of our generation. The last 5 years or however long he's been in Miami, he was playing with arguably the second best coach of our generation in Spoelstra. So if he's going to get sick of Eric Spoelstra and act like he did, I can understand why Steve Kerr wouldn't be too upbeat about this because he won't be able to control him.
Yeah, and what I was going to say is Steve Kerr recently came out and talked about the Tatum saga and the Olympics and all the DMPs and all that. We don't need to really go into depth, but he said Tatum handled it like a professional. Everyone, all the media said what they wanted. Tatum didn't say a word. Tatum took it like a professional, took it like the champion he is. Jimmy Butler is not that, and I think Steve Kerr knows that. Like, you're going to have your hands full with emo Jimmy, like Nate said. Like, this dude is a loose cannon. Like, you don't know what you're going to get with him at all. Like, at first, it's this Heat culture is born with Jimmy, and now he's just done with him. Like, if I'm Steve Kerr, I'm saying no, but apparently, I don't know.
I was going to say, if I'm Steve Kerr, I'm hoping Draymond Green probably gives him the Jordan Poole experience sometime.
But so can we all agree, though, that regardless of all these blockbusters, it doesn't really change the trajectory or the plan to the playoffs for the Celtics, right?
There's one move that we haven't talked about that I would say changes things a little bit. And that's what the Cavs did this afternoon with DeAndre Hunter. They got rid of Karis LeVert and Georges Niang. Georges Niang and Jaylen Brown hate each other. That's just a salary filler. But Karis LeVert's interesting. I like him. He can get buckets off the bench. But DeAndre Hunter, he's a lengthy wing defender. They obviously brought him in to match up with Tatum and Browns of the world. But Jason Tatum owns that guy. I watched a 4-minute clip of him owning him in 2023 and in that playoff run. Like, that does – I mean, it adds to their wing depth, and now they have a wing defender, which they – and the Cavs, they needed that kind of wing defender type of guy. They kind of wanted it to be Isaac Okoro. That hasn't really panned out for them. They bring in DeAndre Hunter, been in the league for a little bit. He's been on some playoff runs, been on some decent Atlanta Hawks teams. I like the move for them. It doesn't worry me. I mean, it doesn't worry me per se, but I think it makes the matchup a little bit more interesting, and the Cavs definitely are a little bit more equipped to handle a Celtics team that we see right now, I would say. That's another move. I think an underrated move that really
Celtics
helps.
6.
Yeah. I mean, still, but like it gives them another element. Like
It does.
now they do have that proven, like I wouldn't say proven wing defender, but he's a good defender. It's just Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown are a little bit above DeAndre Hunter's pay grade, I think.
And going back to our previous Celtics episode, I mean, when it's playoff basketball, you really need that killer. And I think we all are in agreement that I don't necessarily know if Donovan Mitchell is that killer, whereas that's certainly something that Jason Tatum is, if he's not already elite in the killer mentality, he's certainly getting damn close of that Kobe mentality is give me the rock at the end of the game, and then he's going to close it out. And so he's a guy that you can rely on, and that's what you need come that time of the year.
I will say Donovan Mitchell basically killed KP on that dunk the other night, but that's besides the point. That's
no,
a dunk.
That was an AI edited video. That was not real. We do not need to get into that at all.
That one got me out of my seat, and there's not many dunks in a regular season basketball game that gets me out of my seat. That one, I was like, oof. Like, you do that to a 7'3" guy.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
It's all right.
I know we're gonna move on to Celtics roster spots. They have one more open now, but before we do that, circling back to the Lakers, they made another move. They traded Dalton Connect and Cam Reddish and a pick for Mark Williams, a very young, promising center from the Hornets. They sent him to LA, and that's the exact guy that a Luka Doncic needs. We saw Luka thrive with Derek Lively and Daniel Gafford last year in Dallas. Rob Pelinka immediately goes out there, gets his guy, a young athletic big that they can throw lobs to. Him and LeBron can protect the rim. He's averaging a double-double, 16 points a game, 10 rebounds. Like, this dude, he's got a longer standing reach than Wemby by 2 inches at 9 feet, 9 inches. Wemby's is 9 feet, 7 inches. Like, this dude is a freak of nature, and the Lakers went out, got their guy. So we want to talk moves, talking Celtics. Maybe the Lakers aren't – the Lakers are now positioned to make it out of the West. Like, they are now a very good team in the West. If they didn't make this Mark Williams trade puts them at a different level. Without him, yes, it's Jackson Hayes, but Mark Williams is he's different. Look what he's doing in Charlotte. LaMelo Ball isn't – you talk about availability, LaMelo Ball doesn't play all the time. Brandon, what's his name? Miller. Yeah, I was going to say Brandon, like, Williams or something, but Brandon Miller, yeah, he's out for the year.
I think we lost Fink again for the third time tonight for the hat trick, but I'll take I'll take the reins from you. Yeah, I was going to say I'll take the reins for you for a moment to piggyback off your point. I still am not ready to say that the Lakers are positioned to come out of the West yet, because I want to see how LeBron and Luka play together, because they're two similar players in terms of they dominate ball possession. They need the ball in their hands. I want to see if they can play off of. I want to see if they can play off of one another.
LeBron is so adaptable,
and two, I mean,
LeBron can play with anybody.
At this stage of LeBron's career, don't you want a guy that LeBron doesn't have to have the
LeBron
ball in his
gets it.
hands?
LeBron just got a guy that can possibly carry him to an NBA Finals, like Luka Doncic.
But if this move was not made with LeBron in mind, if it was, LeBron would have gotten a heads up. So it wasn't.
I agree.
A move that
yes,
it wasn't a move that was to be maximize LeBron's title window. It was a move that. It was a move that was to see life after LeBron. And so I agree
100% with that.
I want to see Luka. I want to see how Luka and LeBron coexist. And within the first 5-10 games, and they're lighting the world on fire. They proved it. I've seen it, but I'm not willing to say right now, today on trade deadline day, that they're positioned to be out of the West. I still think that conference runs through Oklahoma.
Well, and
Yeah,
and
I think they're positioned to make it out of the West. We're talking about LeBron James and Luka Doncic. This is going to be one of the craziest. I don't care. It's 40.
And this is one of those things too that if you're looking at, to your point, life after LeBron of having a blueprint for the Lakers, their biggest complaint over the last handful of years is how old of a team they are, and they just got much younger at this trade deadline with a much higher ceiling by adding these players.
I think every time I raise my voice, I start lagging, so I'm going to keep it down here. But we're talking about Luka. We're talking about Luka Doncic and LeBron James. This is going to be one of the best duos we have ever seen. I don't care. LeBron's 40. He'll go get a triple-double whenever he wants. He's a proven winner. He turns it on in the playoffs. He plays when it matters, and it's Luka freaking Doncic. This dude scored 73 points in a game last year. They're going to make it out of the West. They're going to make it to the Western Conference Finals. I'll tell you that. It's going to be Thunder versus the Lakers in the Western Conference Finals. LeBron is not going to let this opportunity go to waste. There's no way. This team is talented. AR-15 is becoming more of a playmaker. LeBron can play off the ball, and if he has to, he will. Luka's going to be their point guard. They'll make it work. JJ is a genius coach. The Lakers already run a ton of plays. You realize a lot of the plays that the Mavericks run were designed by JJ Redick, and that's exactly what the Lakers run now without Luka. But guess what? They just fucking got Luka. JJ's playbook was waiting for Luka, and now they got him.
Go watch the film. City in 4 games.
Okay.
If that's the West,
if that's about LeBron James. Talking about LeBron James. Yeah, it's Lakers. It's Lakers in 6. Lakers in 6. LeBron James and Luka Doncic over SG Hay. SG Hay, them boys, they all want to hang out. Nah, it's Braun. It's Braun and Bronny and Luka. Bronny, Braun, and Luka are going to take down OKC. All this nonsense can stop. We're talking about LeBron James, the GOAT, the best player of all time, legendary, 4 championships, going to get his 5th, probably not, but he could. Luka's going to help him. The Celtics obviously are going to end that. Celtics beat them, but I mean,
Cook.
Come on. We're talking about LeBron James. You get, I got to see Luka and LeBron coexist. What the hell are you talking about? What the hell are you talking about? Are you out of your mind? It's LeBron James. The guy
wasn't LeBron just in the play-in tournament last year? So a LeBron-led team wasn't even good enough to get out of the gimmick
with an old-ass roster.
LeBron took Mo Williams, Isaiah Thomas, washed-up D-Wade, Kevin Love, all them boys to the finals.
That's nearly a decade ago.
It's still LeBron. He's getting 35-point triple-doubles at 40. Let me know how your body feels at 40, Walsh. Let me know. Because it ain't going to feel like goddamn LeBron James. Jesus on fucking basketball shoes. Jesus on hardwood. Jesus in the air. Jesus everything. Jesus. This is the second coming to Jesus. Closest thing you'll ever see to Jesus is LeBron James. You don't understand what you're witnessing. You are blind. Talk about OKC, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Stop with that nonsense. Stop. Talk about LeBron.
In May, when LeBron and Luka are already in Cancun, can I bring this up? Can PT bring this back?
There's not going to be nothing to bring back. We're talking about LeBron. Bring back what? The LeBron?
We could bring back LeBron's hairline because he's like me. Doesn't have much.
I was gonna say you don't have a leg to stand on there, Nick.
Yeah, but I just don't see this Laker team really making a serious run at it. It's Oklahoma City. You still got Denver, who has the best player on the planet, and Jokic. That is the best player on the planet today in 2025. LeBron might have the best career we've ever seen, absolutely. But in 2025, LeBron is not the best player in the league as he was. So the Western Conference runs through Oklahoma City and runs through Denver before it runs through LA.
Hello? Oh, what's that? Oh, really? Sorry, guys. You can keep talking, Nick. It's just LeBron. All right. Yeah, thanks, Bron. I'll relay the message. He said you're full of shit. He said he's sick of hearing about OKC, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Nikola Jokic. He doesn't care. He got Luka Doncic, he just told me. I don't know if you knew that, Nick. He's going to take OKC down in 6. He's going to come down to Boston. We're going to win that in 4 or 5. That's fine. That's what you can pull up. LeBron James losing another finals.
That's my point exactly. Lakers with a 40-year-old LeBron and now 25-year-old Luka with the Celtics in the NBA Finals. That is the NBA's dream.
Oh, absolutely. The Lakers Celtics is always the dream for the NBA if you want to talk about a ratings monster. But as a Celtics fan, I would love to see it because I think I would pick the Celtics in 3 if it was possible. That would be a Celtics sweep without a second thought in my mind.
But you're forgetting one thing. You're forgetting one thing. Can I tell you? There's one thing you're forgetting if that happens. I think you can maybe guess. It's LeBron freaking James. It's LeBron James. You're forgetting about LeBron. No, but in all seriousness, it is a move for the future for the Lakers, but they are going to make it out of the West this year. There's no way LeBron lets this go. But circling back to the Celtics, as we are a Celtics podcast, they now, when we made this podcast outline, they had 2 open roster spots. We all knew that. They made a trade very, very recently, or not a trade. They signed Torrey Craig. He was with the Bulls. He's been around the league. Nick, I'll kick it to you. What are your initial Torrey Craig thoughts?
It's the wing depth that they really needed. Do I think it's going to make a big difference come May and June? No, the end of the bench guys really don't. But the last, I don't even know their exact record at this point. They were going into night 4-4 away from 40-20. So they're what?
They were 4-5 away. They needed to win.
Well, no, they've lost 15 games, so they could only lose 4. But so just rough math, they have roughly 30 games left in the season. So Craig will be able to take away some minutes from Brown or Tatum, and when they need to have a rest night, if you can finally get Tatum off the floor one of these nights, because we all know it's like pulling tooth or nail for Tatum to take a night off. So when those nights happen, that's where Craig is going to be important. So I don't really think it's a huge move for the postseason. It's just for these remaining 30-something games or so in the regular season.
I really hope Brad Stevens can make a trade for some better Wi-Fi for me, because this is ridiculous. I'm so sorry to our viewers. This is not going to be a pleasurable experience, but hopefully we can get this figured out.
I'd say your LeBron take made up for it.
Yeah, LeBron. Don't even get me started on LeBron. I could say so much about my GOAT. Pour honey on me. But, I mean, for me, there's really not much to talk about for the Celtics. I mean, they're, in my eyes, one of the better teams that's ever been constructed. Like, this is a very good starting 5. It's a good bench. They're well coached. They got a good front office. There's really not much to talk about. So I don't know if you guys think it's a good time to transition into our new segment, or you want to keep talking trade deadline.
So let me just hit one thing, and then I'm going to throw it to you. Is to your point, think like this is a time to be grateful for Celtics basketball, particularly given the state of our other New England-based teams. That there are a lot of question marks about our other teams, whereas they just don't. You just get to sit back and appreciate what this team is and what they do on a night in and night out basis. And so I think that's really the sentiment for me is appreciation of. They certainly have. They've gone out, they've won, they've constructed a continuous winner, and they, the complaints that we have of all of our other teams just really they don't exist here. So that's my last thing for tonight.
And before we jump to the next segment, the one last spot I had was there's one more roster spot for the Celtics. I don't expect any other buyout players coming in. I have a feeling it's going to be one of the two-way contract guys being converted, maybe like a Drew Peterson being converted full-time, kind of like they did with Keita towards the end of last year. So I don't expect something major for that last spot. I think Craig is the last exterior guy you see coming in from outside the organization.
Yeah, so I think that's a perfect segue into one of our brand new segments. This is the first time we've done it on the Celtics. So it's called Walsh's Vault. For anyone that doesn't know, Nick has a very good memory of all things Boston sports. His task is to take Nate and I, along with you as listeners or viewers, down a trip down memory lane, specifically towards the Celtics, straight from his brain, no notes. This is going to be right off the dome. So, Nick, take it away.
And I just want to say, people listening just now, that wasn't Fink's Wi-Fi. He did stutter.
Great call out. That was fantastic podcasting there.
So actually tonight we are not going to have Walsh's Vault. That segment has been canceled, and we're going to move right into trivia time. No, I'm just kidding. No. So without further ado, let's kick it off for Walsh's Vault. Nick, let's do this thing.
So I was trying to think of a way to pick a game that has some sort of relevance to this week and all that. And it's funny that you picked tonight to do your huge LeBron love fest, because the game I'm choosing, I'm going all the way back to May of 2008 during the run for, at the time, Banner 17. We hadn't seen a banner in Boston for the Celtics at this point for 22 years, going back to 1986. Went through the dark ages of Len Bias, Rick Pitino, Reggie Lewis, the early years of Antoine and Paul Pierce, losing Red Auerbach in 2006. It was a really dark time in Celtics history before we swung the trade for KG and Ray Allen in the summer of 2007. First year together, they win, I believe it was 66 games in the regular season, had a dominant regular season. They go into the postseason, and for whatever reason, they finally hit adversary. There's my stutter.
Adversary University.
They have to, in the first round, go to 7 games against a young Al Horford Hawks team. They blow them out in game 7. No team won a road game that's series. You go to the second round against the Cavs. Again, they could not win on the road. The home team won the first 6 games. You go to game 7 against Cleveland. We had the matchup against Cleveland this week, which was the matchup we all wanted to see. The first seed in the East with the Cavs versus the Celtics.
I wanted to see it too, but I couldn't see a damn thing.
With the color of the jerseys. And to me, game 7 of the second round in 2008 was the best pure basketball game in the NBA I've ever watched live in my lifetime. It was back in the time where you weren't shooting 53s a game. You still had the mid-range game. And I remember an old interview with Doc Rivers saying after the Celtics would go on to win the championship, the one game that he did not want the Celtics to be in was game 7 against Cleveland, because his thought was you never want to get to a win or die game when the best player on the court is on the other team. And they were going up against LeBron James. LeBron scores 45 points in game 7. The only issue is Paul the Truth Pierce, my favorite player growing up, matched him almost shot for shot, put up 41 points. The Celtics would end up winning this game 97-92. But the two plays that are remembered mostly for this game are one, unsung hero PJ Brown, old man PJ Brown, who wasn't even on the team to start the year, wasn't even on the team until after the All-Star break, where legend has it, I believe the All-Star break was in New Orleans this year, ironically, where the Super Bowl is being played. Correct me if I'm wrong, but PJ Brown was retired, walking down the street. Paul Pierce is drunk in the back of his car and sees him, goes down his window and just screams at him, and they start talking and goes, "We want you up in Boston. We need you up in Boston." PJ Brown thought he was just drunk and joking. A couple days later, PJ Brown is in the Celtics uniform. Flash forward to Game 7 against Cleveland. Celtics are up by 1 with a minute and a half-ish to go. It was 89-88, 87-88, somewhere in that range, but the Celtics are up 1. Paul Pierce, on his way to a 40-point masterclass in Game 7, gets the ball over in the corner. Cleveland rushes to him. Pierce, having the hot hand all game, could have tried to make a move, isolate, put up a prayer shot. Instead, he makes a simple little bounce pass to PJ Brown at the elbow. And without hesitation, PJ Brown shoots nothing but net. Celtics go up by 3 with a minute, 20-ish, minute and a half, like I said, to go. Really a huge pivot point because there wasn't as many threes being shot at the time. Huge basket. And then the play that I think everyone remembers doesn't even show up in the stat sheet. The next Cleveland possession results in a jump ball. And that's where Paul Pierce out hustles LeBron James. First one to the floor, he usually gets it. The famous clip of Paul Pierce rolling on the ground with the ball, crying timeout, and just having a full-on spaz attack as he's granted the timeout. Celtics end up winning this game, like I said, 97-92 in a heart-pounding fashion. They go on to face Detroit in the Eastern Conference Finals, who at the time was the team in the East to beat. Beat them in 6 games. Go on, you get that NBA ratings Goliath of Lakers Celtics. Celtics take care of business in 6 games. And Banner 17 is raised to the rafters. But that Game 7 against Cleveland, for me, is my favorite basketball game ever. I still go back to this day, watch the full game on YouTube because that was the style of basketball that I loved. And 45 points from LeBron, 41 points from Pierce. It just didn't get much better than that.
Yeah, and that, like I said, that memory, man, that is awesome. I wish I could remember that game. I definitely did not watch it. I think I was 4. But transitioning from Walsh's Vault, which I love the new segment. This is staying forever, however long we keep this podcast, or until you run out of games, because that could happen too. It's only been so many games you've been alive for. But going to one of our older segments, I mean, we're not an old podcast, but it's Nate's trivia time. Nate, you have a question for our Celtics fans, so how about you take it away?
Absolutely. And so for those that listened to our Bruins episode, the answer to that will be dropping in an upcoming Super Bowl preview episode. And so I will be giving the answer to the previous trivia question there. So for this bonus episode, we will be doing a Celtics themed trivia question for what Celtics guard was named NBA All-Rookie Second Team following the 2006 and 2007 season. Again, what Celtics guard was named to the NBA All-Rookie Second Team following the 2006-2007 season? Put your answers down below and keep filling up those answers, and we'll keep getting merch out to people. So,
yeah, I think our first trivia segment, we got like around 20 or 30 answers, and then the second time it just exploded. I think it was like 325. So we're really hoping for a lot of answers on this one. It's a really good question. And then, yeah, so it's going to bring us into our closing thoughts. So, Nick, what are your closing thoughts, my man?
My closing thoughts are my thought on the team hasn't changed from before today to after 3 o'clock this afternoon. It's still a championship or bust. I don't care if it's the first seed or the second seed that they get. I don't think it gets to game 7 against Cleveland this time around, even though I just talked about a game 7 against Cleveland in the Walsh's vault. But I think this is it's the Celtics' time. They've been building for this for the last 7-8 years since they brought Brown in, and you started to see the fruit of that infamous Nets trade 12 years ago start to pay off, which might be the only thing to rival the Luka trade in terms of the dumbest trades of all time in the viewpoint of the Nets and the Mavericks. It worked wonders for us. We got Tatum, Brown. At the time, we used one of the picks for Kyrie, which that didn't really work out too well, as we all know. But we made out like a bandit in that trade, and we're seeing the fruits of that patience pay off. Thank you, Danny Ainge, for that. Thank you, Brad Stevens, for basically putting the bow tie on this core with Porzingis and Holiday. It's gotten us one championship already. I firmly believe, all things considered, if they stay healthy, Banner 19 should be hopefully within our reach come June if they play to their potential and don't play like they did in January.
My only thing to close out the episode is, like I said, going back to just being thankful for this team, that there really isn't the same question marks that we have. It's always been during the 2000s, 2010s, now 2020s. It's always been a great time to be a Boston sports fan. This is probably the hardest it's been, where the majority of the teams are so questionable at being able to be competitive. But the Celtics certainly do not have any of those worries, and I'm just thankful that we have that team.
Yeah, and for me, it was just surviving today, not losing any key pieces to our team due to any owner worries, anything like that, and just seeing how the league got better, because obviously it's the Celtics are the defending champions. Someone's got to take them down. So how can a team get better to copycat the Celtics and try and take that down? In my eyes, no one really did that. A lot of lateral moves, a lot of moves that we saw coming. A lot of guys got moved that have been in rumors for years, and it finally happened. So nothing worried me. Nothing worries me too much. Came out of this day pretty happy. But before we go, one quick plug for our socials once again. So you can find us on X at Boston Banner BP, on Facebook and Instagram at Boston Banner Blueprint, as well as YouTube, Apple, and Spotify at Boston Banner Blueprint. But that is all from us for this edition of the Boston Banner Blueprint podcast. We thank you guys for joining us, and that is it. Peace.